My name is Delia Marsh. I'm 34 years old and I price disasters for a living. Last July, my brother put his 2 children in a taxi and sent them to my house. A house I had quietly sold 4 months earlier. I had said no 3 times in writing. He hit send on one last text, switched his phone to airplane mode, and walked up a cruise ship gangway with a drink voucher in his hand. The taxi carried my niece and nephew through a summer thunderstorm and left them on a stranger's porch. The man who answered that door made one single phone call. What that call set in motion: the squad car, the caseworker, the handcuffs waiting at the airport, and a piece of paper my own mother slid across her kitchen table. My family never saw coming. Honestly, neither did I. Welcome back to Revenge and Regrets, where we share family stories about respect, boundaries, and the quiet strength it takes to hold them when the people you love push hardest. If your no has ever been treated like the start of a negotiation, this one's for you. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from, and subscribe before we start. I work on the 19th floor of a glass tower in Charlotte at a firm called Sentinel Risk Partners. My job is simple to explain and hard to do. I look at something people love, a house, a bridge, a business, and I calculate exactly how it fails. My family got that service free for 3 decades and never knew they were my biggest account. I was the keeper of the spare keys, the midnight airport pickup, the loan with no due date. When my father's transmission died, my savings fixed it. When my brother's card got declined at a pharmacy, mine didn't. That wasn't love exactly. It was infrastructure. Nobody thanks a bridge. They just drive across it, and they get very offended the day it charges a toll. Here's the thing about being the reliable one. Reliability reads as consent. Say yes enough times and your yes stops being a gift. It becomes a standing order. And your no. In my family, no was never an answer. It was an opening bid. I learned the rules at 12, standing at the front door with my brother's inhaler in my hand because Grant, 15 and grinning, had forgotten it again on game day. My mother kissed my forehead and called me her little manager. It was the nicest thing she said to me that year. Her name is Sylvia, and she learned the rules from her own family, a baby brother, my Uncle Theo, whom she carried like luggage for 40 years. My father, Walter, was an electrician for 30 years and silent for most of them. And Grant was the fun one, quick with a joke, the kind of charm that makes waitresses forgive him. He never carried anything heavy in his life, because every time he reached for weight, 4 hands beat him to it, and 2 of them were mine. He grew into a man who was 37 and had never once heard a no that stuck. That's not a personality. That's a diet. I bought a house in a quiet neighborhood outside Charlotte when I was 28. $238,000. 6 years of brutal saving. For about a year, it was mine. Then my mother asked for a key for emergencies. Then Grant copied it for convenience. Then the guest room became the kids' room, and my Saturdays became drop-off windows. Last November broke me. Grant and his wife Priya's water heater flooded their place, which was real, and somehow the repair took 9 days that landed exactly on Thanksgiving, which was not. 5 people moved into my house. I cooked for 11, slept on my own couch. When I quietly said I needed my house back by the weekend, my mother didn't look up from her coffee. A house that big for one person. God gave you extra so you could share. Everyone laughed. Not mean laughter. Worse, comfortable laughter. The sound a family makes when the arrangement suits everyone but the person paying for it. Somewhere between someone else's 9th load of laundry and the couch I slept on under my own roof. My anger burned down to something quieter and far more useful. I started doing math. In January, I called a realtor named Teresa and said out loud for the first time, I want to sell. Off market, no sign in the yard. Within 3 weeks, she brought me a buyer, Colonel Marcus Reyes, retired U.S. Marine Corps, 61 years old, 32 years of service, widowed 4 years. He wanted a quiet street and a porch that faced east. We closed in mid-March. $412,000, keys in an envelope. I moved into a condo 25 minutes and one entire life away and told my family the house was getting work done. Nobody checked. You don't inspect a resource. You just assume it will be there. At the closing table, Colonel Reyes asked me exactly one question that wasn't on a form. Anything I should know about the house? I told him the truest thing I owned. My family believes this house belongs to them. If anyone ever shows up, you don't owe them anything. He held my eyes a moment, then nodded once. Understood. Spring was the first season of my adult life that belonged to me. I registered for the July certification exam, the last box before Sentinel would make me Director of Risk, a title I'd been building toward for 9 years. I want to be clear about something. I didn't leave those children. Lily is 9, all elbows and observation. Miles is 6 and travels everywhere with a plastic dinosaur named Rex. I saw them nearly every Sunday at my parents' house. I braided Lily's hair and lost chess games to her on purpose. Then lost some, not on purpose. She kept a shoebox of her father's losing scratch-off tickets and called it her collection, and she said it so matter-of-factly that nobody but me seemed to hear what it meant. A 9-year-old was already keeping records on her father. I left a building. I left a job I'd never applied for. I did not leave those kids. In the middle of June, my phone lit up with Grant's name. Guess who's going to the Bahamas? An anniversary cruise, 7 days, leaving July 12th, $4,800, already booked. So the kids will stay with you. You barely have a life anyway. He laughed when he said it, so that objecting would make me the one who couldn't take a joke. I looked at my calendar. My exam was July 15th. I said no, just that. No cushion, no apology, no offer to find him a sitter. The silence on the line had a texture, like a machine that had jammed on a coin it didn't recognize. Then he laughed again. You always say that first. It's fine. We'll talk. He hung up cheerful. In 37 years, the word no had never once cost him anything. Why would he believe in it? What followed was 10 days of the family pressure machine. My mother called. Family shows up, Delia. My father didn't call, which was its own message. Priya sent a spa itinerary with a note that said, "We so needed this." And I realized with a chill that she thought it was settled, that someone had told her it was settled. I answered the only way a risk analyst knows how, clearly, calmly, in writing. On June 26th, I texted, "I am not available to watch the kids July 11th through the 19th. Please arrange childcare." On July 1st, longer, with my exam date spelled out. On July 5th, the third and final version, "I will not be watching Lily and Miles. Do not plan around me. Please arrange licensed childcare. This is my final answer." His entire reply was a thumbs-up emoji. Then nothing. 6 days of nothing. Saturday, July 12th, arrived wearing a storm. A slow gray system parked over the whole region, the kind that turns interstates into car washes. I didn't care. Saturdays before the exam ran on lockdown rules. Coffee at 7, phone in a drawer, 6 hours of practice problems. At noon, I opened the drawer and the phone came alive like something caught. A text from Grant stamped 7:41 that morning. "Kids are in a cab to your place. Boarding now. You're the best, sis. Airplane mode till Nassau." Then a missed call from Priya. Then a voicemail from a number I didn't know. Then 2 missed calls from a number my caller ID tagged. County Police. I know what happened that morning the way an analyst knows anything, from records, statements, and the one adult who told the truth. At 6:50 a.m., Priya had asked Grant the question that should have ended everything. Did Delia confirm? She never answered my text about the spa. And my brother, zipping a suitcase, said, "She's in. She always is." He wasn't lying the way criminals lie. He was lying the way weather happens, assuming the world would be shaped like his need, because it always had been. The rideshare app refused unaccompanied minors, so he called a cash cab outfit. A driver named Gus pulled up at 7:35. Grant handed him $80 and a promise. "My sister's at the house. She's expecting them. The older one knows the way." The text to me went out at 7:41, 3 minutes after the doors closed and the wheels were already rolling. He informed me after the answer couldn't matter anymore. Lily told me the ride herself, weeks later, in the flat voice she uses for things that scare her. The cab smelled like pine air freshener. Miles made Rex walk along the window ledge, narrating the puddles. The rain came on hard past the interstate junction and Gus asked, "You kids sure your aunt's home?" Lily said yes, because her father had said yes, and 9-year-olds run on their father's certainty. She recognized the old turn before the GPS did. The magnolia, the mailbox, the backyard with the swing I'd hung for her myself. "This is it," she said, and her stomach did something she didn't have a word for, because the porch furniture was wrong, and there was a small flag by the door that hadn't been there before. Gus took the backpacks out. The rain flattened their hair in 10 steps. Lily rang the bell. Through the glass, she saw a shape coming that was too tall, moved too straight. Gus saw the door begin to open, an adult in the frame, close enough for cash arithmetic, and pulled away into the storm. The door opened all the way. A tall man with gray hair cropped close looked down at 2 dripping children on his welcome mat. It was not their Aunt Delia. Miles, 6, solved the situation the way 6-year-olds do. He asked the only question that mattered. "Where's our Aunt Delia?" Colonel Marcus Reyes looked at the wet children, looked at the empty street, and did triage. He'd tell me later his first 3 thoughts, in order: get them dry, get names, get a responsible adult on a phone. He brought them under the porch roof, came back with towels and a sleeve of graham crackers, and ran what he called a roll call, kneeling, voice level, names, ages, where's your dad? Lily gave it to him straight. Dad and Mom went on a boat. Dad said Aunt Delia lives here. This used to be her house because that's her swing in the back. She tried her father's phone, voicemail. Her mother's, voicemail. She didn't know her grandparents' number by heart, and her phone had been set up by her father, so you can guess how much thought he'd given to backup contacts. For 20 minutes, by his own account, Colonel Reyes worked the problem on that porch like it was a stalled convoy. Father's phone dark. Mother's phone dark. Grandparents, no number. The aunt. Lily offered what she had. She does risk downtown. When every civilian option was exhausted, he did the thing he was built to do. He called it in. Not 911 with sirens, but the county non-emergency line, saved in his phone since the week he moved in, of course. "This is Colonel Marcus Reyes, United States Marine Corps, retired. I have 2 unaccompanied minors at my residence, dropped by taxi. Parents are unreachable and out of state. Children are safe with me on the porch. I need an officer and family services. No lights, no rush, no anger in it, no drama, just procedure. The one force of nature my family had never once met. Because for 30 years I had stood between them and it, absorbing it, billing nobody. There was no one standing in the doorway anymore. There was only the doorway. A patrol officer arrived within the hour. A caseworker crouched to Miles's eye level and admired Rex with complete professional sincerity. Dispatch raised the cab company, and Gus confirmed everything before his shift even ended. The officer ran the address history. The county ran me and found in 40 minutes what my own mother hadn't noticed in 4 months. 2 calls going to my silenced phone, sitting in a drawer under a coffee mug. At noon I called the number back. Standing at my kitchen counter, rain running down the window. A woman answered on the second ring. "Mrs. Marsh, Detective Ruiz, County Police. Do you know a Lily and a Miles Marsh?" I said yes. "They're safe. They're at their old address. I think you'd better come out here." The floor tilted very quietly under everything I owned. There is no manual for parking across the street from your own house. I crossed the yard I used to mow, climbed 3 steps I could have climbed blind, and stood on my own welcome mat as a visitor. The colonel had seen me coming and opened the door before I touched the bell. Miles hit me at knee height and held on like weather. Lily walked over slower, checking my face first, then folded into my side without a word. Detective Ruiz asked the question the rest of my life now divides around. "Mr. Marsh, were you expecting these children today?" I saw the exit. 1 yes. 1 small, merciful yes. A mix-up. Ha, my brother's hopeless with dates. And the whole machine would power down on the spot. The yes was right there, warm and familiar. I looked at Lily's wet braid. I heard my own final text, sleeping in my pocket. I said, "No." I refused 3 times in writing. Ruiz wrote without looking down. The caseworker asked if I'd take the children while the situation resolved, and I said yes to that instantly, because the kids were never the load. The load was everything bolted to them. Caleb was asleep, Miles, by 8:30, Rex standing guard on the pillow. Lily helped me wash dishes because she's constitutionally unable to be a guest. "Somewhere between plates," she said, not looking at me. "Why didn't you tell us you moved?" I said something true and useless about grown-up problems. Then she delivered the second question, like it weighed nothing at all. Dad said you'd never say no for real. He says your no's are just how you warm up. The machine wasn't just running me anymore. It was already training her. For 2 more days, the ocean kept my brother safe from his own phone while his children slept down my hall. Monday afternoon, the ship reached Nassau, and 40 minutes after the gangway touched the pier, my phone rang. He didn't call the detective first. He didn't call his children. He called me, and his first words verbatim, "What did you do?" Not, "Are the kids okay?" I kept my voice level. "You should try that question before you land." Behind him, sharp as glass over cheap ship Wi-Fi, I heard Priya. "She never said yes, Grant. Look at me. She never said yes." 2 investigations had just opened on that boat, and only one involved the police. Tuesday, July 15th was supposed to be my exam day. I deferred to August. The first cost of all this measured in dollars. 2 officers were waiting on the jet bridge when Grant's flight touched down. Abandonment of a dependent child and contributing to the deprivation of a minor, misdemeanor, built on a foundation my brother had poured himself. The driver's statement, the trip sheet, the doorbell camera recording the cab pulling away into the rain, and the timestamps. A cab dispatched at 7:38. A text to me at 7:41. Intent, the law calls that. That same afternoon, my mother drove past the old house to feel close to the situation and saw a pickup in the driveway and a Marine Corps flag by the door. She called me from the curb. "You sold the house. You let a stranger arrest your brother?" In one breath, the sale of my own property had become a betrayal, and a retired Marine answering his own doorbell had become my hired accomplice. I said, "Mom, ask me how the kids are." She hung up. The family group chat earned its name that night. 84 messages between dinner and midnight. My trial conducted in a courtroom where I had no seat. My Aunt Paulette opened proceedings. Blood doesn't call the police on blood. Period. My mother posted a photo of Grant at his high school graduation. Apparently exculpatory evidence. Not one message, not once, asked whether Lily was sleeping okay, or whether Miles was scared. The kids weren't the story. The kids were props in the story of what I had done to Grant. 2 messages came privately. "Priya, he told me you said yes. He told his lawyer that too, until the text came out. I'm so sorry." And my father, a call under a minute. "Your mother's heart is breaking. Delia." That was the whole call. The following Tuesday, my mother called with a voice I hadn't heard since childhood fevers. "Come for tea, baby. Just us." I drove out knowing full well just us was a genre, not a guest list. On the kitchen table, squared between the sugar bowl and a plate of shortbread, sat a document, 3 pages, a tab printed by someone's lawyer marking where my signature would go. Grant's attorney had found the door out, and the door was me. If there had been a standing childcare arrangement, understood in the spring, and I had then moved without informing the family, well, then it's all a tragic mix-up between siblings, and the charges soften or evaporate. All it required was for me to swear under oath to 2 lies, that I had said yes, and that my secret had been the negligence that caused it all. My mother slid the pages across with 2 fingers. "One signature, baby. You could fix this whole family with 1 sentence." I priced risk for a living, and I had never seen an instrument like it. A policy where I paid every premium, absorbed every loss, and the beneficiary was the very hazard being insured. I said I'd read it. I almost signed it. 3 nights later, at 3 in the morning, I sat with the affidavit on my laptop and started drafting the version where I absorb it, because I've been ghostwriting this family's alibi since I was 12. Then I opened my texts and read my own final answer, dated July 5th. His charges were misdemeanors. Lying under oath is a felony. They were asking me to trade a possible probation sentence for him against a possible prison sentence for me, and calling that trade family. That night, I finally let myself replay the call. I'd taken the night of his arrest, my thumb hovering a long second before I accepted the charges from the county jail. For the first time in 37 years, Darren, Grant, had spoken to me without charm, his voice cracked straight down the middle. "Nobody ever let me fail, Kay, not once. Do you understand that? I didn't know a no could be real. I heard him. I believed him. He was not a monster. He was a man raised on a diet of rescues, staring at consequence like a species he'd read about but never seen. I had not offered to catch him, and hanging up had felt like setting down something I'd carried so long my arms had forgotten they were arms. I drove to my old house on purpose for the first time that Saturday. Colonel Reyes brought out 2 mugs of coffee, and we sat on the porch, him in a rocker, me on the swing I'd hung for Lily, which he'd left exactly where it was. I apologized for dragging a stranger into my family's mess. He looked genuinely puzzled. Ma'am, I didn't unleash anything. I just answered the door. Then, unprompted, over the rim of his mug, he told me about his own son. A stretch during the boy's 30th year, when everyone told him to step in, wire the money, catch the boy. Hardest order I ever gave myself was stand down, he said. My wife didn't speak to me for a month. A long sip. He runs an aircraft hangar now. Calls me every Sunday. The summons came Thursday. Sunday, 2 o'clock, the whole family, her house. And Delia, bring your signature, or don't bother coming at all. Sunday's family meeting and Monday's DA interview sat stacked on consecutive days like a controlled experiment. I ran the last risk assessment I'd ever run for this family on a legal pad. Column A, I sign, Grant walks. My mother hugs me at Thanksgiving, and underneath, in the fine print where I live, a felony writing my name like a lien that never expires. Column B. I don't sign. The truth stands where the colonel left it. Grant eats a misdemeanor he cooked himself, and I lose the table. There was no column C. I put down the pen and slept, to my surprise, like a stone. 11 people were already seated when I arrived Sunday, photo albums out, the pen already parallel to the affidavit. Lily and Miles had been sent to a neighbor's, grown folks' business, which tells you everything about how this family defines that word, since the entire case was 2 children the grown folks had misplaced. My mother opened with the albums. Grant stood and read a 2-minute apology off his phone, every sentence bending toward the same beam. We both know you were always going to say yes. You're you. The room actually murmured agreement. 30 years of my reliability offered back as proof my refusal had never been real. The fire presenting the fire department as evidence there'd never been any danger. Then my mother slid the paper the last 12 inches in, and I read my own texts aloud, dates first, like citations. Those were sent before he ever bought a cab ride. The detective has them. The DA has them. My mother's hand covered the affidavit like a woman shielding a candle. You're asking me to swear under oath that my no was a yes. His charges are misdemeanor. Lying in that document is a felony. You want to trade his probation for my prison and call the exchange rate family. My aunt started to say blood, and I let the word hang unfed. Then my mother broke, really broke. 1 sentence, Delia, you could fix all of it with 1 sentence. There it was. The family thesis stated cleanly at last. I stood. For 34 years, my no was an opening bid in this family. It stopped being one on a porch in the rain. I've done the math on what this costs me. I'm the only person in this room who ever does the math. I know exactly what I'm losing today, and I am not signing. I picked up my bag. My mother's voice went flat and final, the coldest I'd ever heard it. If you walk out that door, don't come back. Any Sunday. I stopped in the doorway of the house I grew up in and gave the truest answer of my life. I know, Mom. I priced it in. I walked through, and the door closed behind me so much quieter than I'd spent 3 decades fearing it would be. Monday morning, 40 minutes with Detective Ruiz and an assistant district attorney. I confirmed everything. Dates and screenshots, level voice. I'm not here to bury my brother, I said. I'm declining to lie for him. Those are different jobs, and I've retired from both. I asked my only question, the one nobody at that Sunday table had asked once. What happens to the children's file? Kids stable with their mother. Case on track to close. Kids asking to see their aunt. I signed where signing was true and walked out into July sunlight, feeling neither triumphant nor destroyed, but accurate. In the parking garage, I opened the family group chat. 84 messages of my own trial, still hanging there 34 years of standing between my family and every consequence they'd ever ordered ended in a concrete stairwell with one tap. Quieter than a text arriving. In September, Grant took the deal his lawyer built once the affidavit strategy died on my mother's table. Guilty to 1 misdemeanor count, 12 months probation, a parenting course, 80 hours of community service. He kept custody. His employer wasn't as forgiving as the court. You can't run a sales floor while on probation for a crime with the word minor in it. And the pay cut had teeth. My parents covered his legal bills, $9,000, which broke my heart in a way I'd stopped expecting. Even now the reflex held. Catch him. Always catch him. My mother kept her word. No more Sundays. But on the last Saturday of September, Priya texted me a park name and a time. No committee, no permission slip. Miles brought Rex. Lily brought a chessboard. I brought nothing at all for once, except one thing I'd already set in motion that nobody at that Sunday table knew about. They still don't. The week after I left the group chat, I sat with the attorney who'd handled my closing and moved a piece of the sale money where my family's weather can never reach it. 2 education accounts, one for Lily, one for Miles, seeded from the house their grandmother called communal. Topped by $200 each every month, drafted the same day Sentinel pays me. Priya is the only adult on that side who knows, on one condition. The grandparents never hear of it. Not spite. Engineering. The moment my mother learns there's a fund, it becomes the family's fund, and then it becomes leverage. This money doesn't negotiate. It doesn't attend Sunday dinner. It just compounds quietly, the way consequences do. There's one more line item in the front pocket of Lily's backpack, laminated where a 9-year-old who checks things can always check it, a card with my number, and a promise in plain block letters. If you are ever stranded, call this number. A car will come. She's used it once so far. Not stranded. She called to report a chess opening she'd found on YouTube. The car came anyway. We got milkshakes. That's the whole story of the fund. Love converted from something they could bill against into something I get to give. It's October now. Most Sunday mornings you can find me on a porch that used to be mine, drinking coffee with a retired colonel who charges no rent for it and never mentions the debt because there isn't one. I just answered the door, he says, and waves it off. I passed the August exam. The plate on my office door says Director of Risk. The first framed thing I hung was a crayon drawing Lily made me. A porch in the rain. A stick figure holding an umbrella over 2 smaller ones. Here's what I finally understand, and it only cost everything to learn. Nobody ever let my brother fail, so he never learned to stand. Everybody let me carry, so I never learned I was allowed to set things down. Family, it turns out, was never the people who share your blood. Family is the people who hear your no the first time you say it, and who would rather stand beside you in the rain than send you out into it. That's my story. 3 no's in writing, 1 taxi in the rain, 1 phone call from a stranger who owed me nothing, and still gave my niece and nephew a dry porch. If someone in your life treats your no like an opening bid, take this as your sign to stop negotiating. Share this with someone who needs it today.